big picture, okay, you're an organic chemistry professor. So you have your world that you're an expert in and you dabble in all these other worlds. But from your unique perspective of being a professor, an organic chemistry professor at Cornell University, you're Dave Collum, libertarian, says on his Twitter that opinions expressed here are not my own. Whatever else, right? Isn't that what it says? Did I get that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What is your advice for those people who may still be kind of nervous to they feel like something's up, but they're kind of nervous to go down that route for fear of whatever it is. I lose my job.
That's my advice.
Yeah. What's your best advice?
You mean besides if the lips are moving, don't believe them? Science, a tiny little backdrop. I switched fields as an assistant professor, not hugely, but pretty big for me. And I went into a very complex field that I was told I'd destroy my career and I'd never figured out. And it worked pretty well, actually, but it was very complicated. And what I found is for 40 straight years that what I was told was true just never held up. And so I have no trouble imagining experts getting it wrong. And they were trying to get it right. And so when I watch 12 central bankers all agree on something, somehow because of that experience, I think I have the capacity to say they could still all be stupid assholes, period, with a capital A on that one. And so then that sets me up for being able to challenge authority no matter what. And so then where do I go from there? Well, it turns out that most areas of science are not political. You propose, when you got to get funded, you propose a perceived important problem. You then say, here's what we've done so far, and here's what we're going to do this time, and give us the money because we're important, right? That's every grant proposal is that. So you have to pick an important problem, which is the climate narrative for some. And the problem is that I think more and more we're going to see the preferred scientific pursuits being politicized. So the climate change is a massive one. COVID, virology has been completely politicized, best I can tell. And I would love to know from virologists that that's not true. But the 28 virologists who said the lab leak story was, quote, conspiracy theory, who eventually were shown to be lying, and who should have all of their funding removed for that ethics violation, in my opinion. I would zero those bastards out. I'm that mad at them. Now, I think some of them signed it just because Fauci said sign it, and they said, sure, I'm busy today, but sure, send it to me, I'll sign it, right? I think they'd do that. So if they could convince me they signed it not knowing what was in it, I'd say, okay, you're an idiot, but you're forgiven. So science is going to get more and more politicized, in my opinion. And as it gets more politicized, the science will be more and more corrupted. That's the answer. So what I also should add, I don't know. I was the theater arts guy I was talking to yesterday. One of the things we agreed on yesterday, this is dark. I think we have a rise in authoritarianism, which right now looks unstoppable to me. I don't see how this ends. Authoritarianism right now looks like a slime mold where you're saying, well, what's going to stop the slime mold from taking over my shower, right? The slime mold has no purpose. It just does. So I don't think authoritarianism moves necessarily in really concrete, premeditated ways. But the fact of the matter is we all mask up. We all vaccinate. We're all signing off on stuff because we're told to do so. And so in some sense, COVID is a bit of a Rorschach test to show how many people will just do what they're told when the authorities. It's the Milgram test, right? When the Harvard kids, shocked their buddies because they got an answer wrong or something, and they weren't really getting shocked, but the people zapped their asses off, right? Because the authority guy in a white coat told them to do it. So I think authoritarianism is creeping, was creeping, and now it's ripping. Now it's moving. And so I don't have an optimistic view on it. I see censorship everywhere. Cancel culture was not a grassroots. Cancel culture, I think, was a mechanism concocted to shut down free speech. So if you can show what cancel culture can do to a person, you can. My colleague who I was talking to in theater arts said they're all afraid over there. They're afraid. He used the word afraid. And so, so cancel culture is a mechanism to shut down dissent. And so throwing the current president of the United States off Twitter is an extraordinary power play. Extraordinary power play.
And what is your opinion on the role that the academic institutions play in all of this, considering you work for one of them? You know, how could they do better and you know, message to students, I guess?
Well, tenured professors can speak up, right? Here's what gets a tenured professor fired. And I think it's the only way they get fired, if they agree to it. So if someone comes charging at you and you've said something inappropriate and the mob wants you, I believe that if you can somehow keep your shit together long enough to get your composure and not do something rash, you'll weather the storm. You know, Bill and Hillary Clinton taught us that. There's no problem. It won't eventually go away. And I think that the way some people get fired, at least in academia, is that they agree to it. They're so horrified by the mob, and they get told to go, and they go. And I was pretty close to that at one point, and I'm not a wimp. But I had a couple of really profoundly supportive people saying, no, if not you, then who? I said, okay, you're right. I got to fight this. And so my advice is speak up. And a letter was written by 10 liberal students to the local newspaper demanding that we have to have free speech. They said, one of the things I do routinely is reach out to people. So the dean of diversity at Columbia was getting guff. I reached out to her and just said, hi, I think, you know, I sympathize. It's a shame this is happening. Anything I can do to help, right? Peter Boghossian gets grief. I reach out to Peter. You know, various people get grief. I reach out because they need you to reach out then. They need you to reach out then. And so I reached out to her. I reached out to the lead letter writer and said, it took guts to write that letter. And then I qualified it by saying it shouldn't have taken guts, but in this era it does.
Yeah.
And she was so thrilled that I reached out, even though I'm Mr. Toxic guy on campus in theory. But she was so thrilled, and she said, so far it's been quiet, which is a good sign, right? So maybe the college campus is going to change, but this garbage political correctness movement, the wokeism, is Doug Murray said it brilliantly. He said we all laughed that these crazy college kids studying these stupid subjects would not get jobs. We thought that was going to be the funniest thing. He said the joke was on us. They're getting jobs. They're getting jobs at big companies to teach the big companies how to make less money. That's how he phrases it. And so it's invading corporate America.
Oh, yeah. And
that was the risk that Brett Weinstein pointed out years ago. He says, if you think this is going to stop at Evergreen State College, you're dreaming. Yeah. And I don't think people took him seriously because Evergreen's a whack job location. But it did escape Evergreen, and it did make it to Yale, and it did make it to Harvard and Cornell and places like that. And it is making it to you know, when the military goes, whoa, what the hell is that all about, right? I want those guys to be tough bastards, right? I want them to be able to win wars if we have to. I don't want them to do group hugs.
Well, and it's just funny too, because they piss everybody off with that, because it's like the folks who are into that hate the military, you know, and war and stuff like that. I'm
anti-war too. I think we're fighting way too many wars. I'm pro-strong military, and keep your hands to yourself otherwise.
Good point. But the people who, you know, are like, who are of that mindset.
Right, anti-military hope, right.
Yeah, so maybe you're pro-veteran or whatever, and you know, you see.
I want a good military. I just don't want us to fight wars.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's not gonna change your mind, right? To how all of a sudden have like a CIA agent who is like, I have 2 moms, you know. But then you know, and the conservatives are also, you know, the people who say they are, not, I don't want to say conservatives are that way, because you're right. It can, you know, there are lots of conservatives who are anti-war or whatever too. But the people who say like are more hawkish about what America's foreign policy should be, they're also going to think it's stupid. So I don't know what the military's doing, or
So
these.
here, you want my theory on General Milley, besides the fact that I dislike him immensely.
And then we'll wrap.
I think General Milley, when he came out super woke, I think he knew that a book was coming that was going to hammer him. I think he did that to form an alliance with the left, so that when his time came to get his ass kicked by Woodward, that the left would say, oh, no, this is the one general we like. I think that's what he did.
Hey, it could absolutely be the case. I guess I don't know if we'll ever find out, but
we
you
won't
heard it
find
here
out.
first. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
If it does, okay. Dave Collum, getting organic chemistry professor at Cornell University. Thanks for spending so much time. I don't know. I hope you weren't supposed to be teaching class right now, but
I'm on sabbatical.
You're on sabbatical. Okay. See, why didn't I go into teaching? I really need to consider. I called this, when I quit my TV news career, I kept saying I need a sabbatical. That's just what I need.
We work long hours though. My average colleague is logging in 12 a day.
Oh, no thanks. Well,
now that's standard for chemistry. That's standard.
Yuck. And in chemistry, you know what I was doing in chemistry, AP chemistry, when I was in high school? Do you want to know?
No.
You don't want to know?
Yeah, I do want to know.
Oh, okay. I was making videos
here
of my classmates. I would sneak up on them, like when we would be doing particular lab like experiments. I had a little video camera, and I would shoot like testimonials about what they really thought about this stupid experiment we were having to do. And I'd sneak up on my teacher, and I'd like get shots of him, on Facebook, or, well, that wasn't there back then, but whatever the messenger thing was. And I'd make these videos that I'd show at the end of the year. And all my science professors thought I was going to just flunk every single AP exam, because that's all I do in all of my classes. I had my video camera. I would go around and ask my classmates what they were thinking about the upcoming dance or whatever else. And they're like, God, Allison, that girl, we can't stop her. And every time she keeps coming back every time we kick her out. And I got 5s, which maybe nobody's still aware of that, but I got perfect scores on all of my AP exams. Somehow I was able to do that while also shooting videos of all of the insanity that was happening in my classes. But I don't remember a lick of what I learned. I will say that. I'm very good at retention. God, this fly. I'm good at retention short term. I can like do a million things. Like, okay, yeah, this whatever. But long term, I think that hurt me on my understanding of organic chemistry or chemistry and physics and whatnot, because I was like learning enough to get myself through the exams, but my real passion was exposing who was making out in the corner that no one was paying attention to.
So a lot of comments have. First of all, I only got 1A in a chemistry course at Cornell as an undergrad until I got to the grad courses. So. Okay. It was not a natural. I was a genetics major, and I didn't have any of the background or anything. It was just chaos. You just described an interesting TED Talk story by a guy, I can't remember his name, but it's such a great talk where he's talking about the history of one of the great choreographers, and she was unable to be contained as a kid, and the mother had her into a psychiatrist's office. And said, my daughter just uncontrollable, and the psychiatrist watched her, and then he says to the little girl, he says, I'm going to talk to your mother. I'll be right back. And he and the mom disappear, and on the way out the door, he turns on the radio, and he gets out the door and says to the mom, he said, watch your daughter. And the daughter's bopping around the room to the music like crazy. And he says, your daughter doesn't have a disability. Your daughter is a dancer. Oh. And so that's the message. So the message was, you were a journalist. My oldest son was a disaster in high school. At one point I said to a teacher, the only kids in this class he's beating are crack babies. and she sort of swallowed hard, not having ever heard that from a parent, and then said yes. And it turns out he had this great temperament, but I didn't see his talent until he went off to some modest college and then grew up. And you know what he is now? He's the director of event management at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's really funny.
wow. Right? Oh, wow.
He had it in him.
He had it in him. And there's things I replay the tape and I go, that was a hint. I didn't see it. I didn't see that hint.
Whether you're woke or you just woke up, you should definitely check out twinenginecoffee.com/Allison to make sure whatever kind of awake you are also sipping something good while you're watching my videos. twinenginecoffee.com/Allison with 1L, Nicaraguan, shade-grown, high-altitude, USDA certified organic roasts. They've got a wide variety. I like the dark roasts myself. They also have a Cultura tea, which is a tea you can make out of coffee fruit. It's got somewhat of a distinct taste, but does still taste a lot like tea. And you got a lot of antioxidants without the amount of caffeine from coffee. So again, twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. I'll see you next time.